What's up guys, That Got the Pencil here, and here we have a certain giant to analyze. The time has come to burrow into the crust of the earth and begin to review her, the envy of the 7 deadly sins, the massive, the cheerful, the powerful, the unrelenting giantess Diane, the titanic jealousy. Before we begin this review of Diane, the Endless Envy, please, I gotta ask, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It would help me out a lot. Now, on to Diane. Diane, like a lot of her fellow sins, has a really solid track record early on within the series. In her fight against the Holy Knight Fresia, Diane body bags the Bug Girl the moment she gets remotely serious. She then goes toe-to-toe with Meliodas while being tricked, and then while fighting Gila, she is notably playing around and not necessarily taking Gila seriously, and while King comes in for the save at the end, she took little damage, so that's not really a bad feat for her, just toying around with Gila. Even in her weakened miniature form, she defeats Griamore, defeats Hauser, ties with Meliodas for the most part before she begins to revert, and overall does a seriously good job within the tournament. And once reunited with her sacred treasure, she dominates Helpram and forces him to run away. However, she does get slapped up pretty handily by Dreyfus and his subordinates. Then she does decent against Red Demon Hendrickson, however she becomes fuel for Meliodas' revenge counter against Grey Demon Hendrickson. She then basically equalizes with Gother when she's miniaturized, and then gets slapped up by Galland with ease when she's full size. Then she gets bullied pretty bad by the earth and plant dolls that Droll and Gloxinia make, until her King Golem slaps up the Droll Golem after King slaps up the Plant Golem. She then has her training arc, but that does not pertain to her as it's all Droll's body. When back in the present, she, alongside her fellow sins, defeats Melascula after being possessed. She's then forced to fight Chandler, and actually does really well considering she's at her smallest in the entire series at this point. However, Chandler is severely nerfed here, but it's still an impressive feat for a super miniature nerfed Diane as well. After this, she proceeds to body an entire demon army with her earth magic, does little to nothing against Mael outside of redirect his attacks and fuel King, and then protects Merlin at the back end of the fight for Meliodas. She then fails to do anything against the Demon King Meliodas, but stall, and then fights against the Chimera Endura with her fellow deadly sins. Then she dances up against the Demon King and slays him with her fellow sins. She's pretty much useless against Cath, and her tale is done. Diane's story has many different parts, but she manages to survive and prosper so well through her potent magical abilities. These magical abilities all come from her core magic, her ability known as Creation. Creation is Diane's inherent ability as a giant to manipulate the earth in various ways to suit her own personal needs on a moment-to-moment basis. All her basic earth manipulation techniques would include Ground Gladius, a massive blade of earth, Rising Meteor, where she slams a tower of earth into her opponent, and then she has Rush Rock, where she barrages her opponent with a stream of rocks. Then there is Double Hammer, where she slams 2 fists of earth right onto her opponent. Then she has Crazy Rush, where she summons towering fists of earth to completely crush her opponent. Then there is Jet Hammer, where she fires off a gigantic rock fist. Then she has more defensive techniques such as Sand Whirl, where she traps her opponent in stone that she turned to quicksand. She then has Diamond Shield, a wall of diamond made to block things. She then has Heavy Metal, where she turns herself into metal to increase her weight, offense, and defense capabilities. For her specialized magic, she has Fillet and Sirloin, and then Friends, earth golems she can make in order to fight for her. Her large-scale attacks include Diamond Tower, a massive spire of diamond that rises from the earth, and Mother Catastrophe, an entire floating mountain. Then there's Queen's Embrace, a massive wave of earth that dwarfs even Albions, which are mountain-sized creatures. And then finally, she has Mother Creation, where she manipulates an entire landscape to beat her opponent with it and then reform it into another shape of her choosing. She also has access to Droll's Dance, which allows her to raise her power as she dances, and it helps her to dodge things in a more smooth way, and it can also shut down earthen abilities. Then she has Gideon, her sacred treasure, which draws out the peak of her potential, which comes with the ability Lightning Rod, which allows her to redirect magical attacks into the earth rather than at her, neutralizing them. However, she doesn't do this that often, mainly because she cares for the earth and doesn't want to destroy it. Also, she does just have basic earth manipulation that doesn't necessarily have a named purpose, like she can just summon earthen pillars out of the ground whenever she really feels like it, if she really feels like it, so there's also that. Now, with all of her abilities and feats laid out, where does she go within the narrative? Well, there are 3 main Dianes to discuss: pre-training Diane, post-training Diane, and end-of-series Diane. For pre-trained Diane, she's strong but not that strong. She's stronger than almost all Holy Knights, but she falls beneath Dreyfus and Hendrickson, and in terms of her fellow sins, she ranks at around number 5, given that pre-trained Diane lasts up through Infinity Merlin, who has better feats than her against commandments, King, who has better feats than her with his full power through slaying Albions and saving her, and Meliodas has his Demon Mark power-ups and his post-Druid amps and his feats against the commandment, something that a pre-training Diane could just never hope to dream of coming close to, especially if you threw pre-training Diane in that fight where Meliodas was against all the 10 commandments. She would have lasted nowhere near as long as he did. And of course, Escanor surpasses her in every single way, one-shotting Galland when a pre-training Diane was literally one-shot by Galland, just casually kicking her weapon back into her forehead. She's also inferior to all the commandments and the Archangels because they're just in an entirely different league than her at this point due to her lacking in power. Post-training Diane, even with Rose Dance, is pretty much in the same spot in terms of the sins, except she drops to 6 once Post-Purgatory Bond pops up, as she does not compare to Full Wings King, True Magic Meliodas, Escanor in any of his variants at this point, and even Merlin, considering Merlin's feat against the highest level demons. Because the thing is, while a miniature Diane was able to fight a weakened Chandler, Merlin was able to fight a full power Chandler who was transformed and Cusack both at the same time. So that just outclasses Diane so far with everything we've seen from her post-training self. In terms of commandments, at her peak, she should reasonably be at least relative to Droll, going off Melaskiel's statement and her feats. She falls beneath the Archangels though. However, she should be able to be at least relative through scaling to Galland off of her Droll equivalency statement, who could blitz and damage the Archangels, which is actually really solid scaling for her considering how well the Archangels scale to certain characters, and they're just standing in the series as a whole. End of series Diane at her peak should sit around the same spot, though she likely surpasses Merlin thanks to her ability to dodge and drag around the Prime Demon King while Merlin has to off-guard him. In base though, Merlin is her superior, considering Diane actually starts out relatively weak in base comparison to a lot of her fellow deadly sins. She still stands no chance against Post-Purgatory Bond, who 1v1 Meliodas Demon King, True Magic Meliodas, who is stronger than the Demon King, Escanor, whether he be in his final shine state where he's just able to damage the Demon King with his bare hands, or his ultimate one state where he's able to pummel the Prime Demon King, or Full Wings King, who at a regular standing could just fight the Demon King without much problem and take hits from him, while Diane needed to be protected alongside Elizabeth, Merlin, and Gother. And at her peak, she should surpass all the commandments and Archangels, but in base, she would likely have trouble with characters like Mael, Zeldris, and Ludoshel. The reason I say she surpasses all the commandments and Archangels is because she was able to do something to the Prime Demon King, something that a character like Mael, who is the strongest Archangel when at his peak, when his peak was near to being available to him, wasn't confident in doing. While Diane, at her peak, which was something she achieved, did manage to actually fight off the Demon King for a little bit. Now, for some quick out-of-verse scaling. Diane is weird because of her many different states. Beginning of series, you can either upscale her from island level red demon attacks, or her own island level Mother Catastrophe, or you could highball the Mother Catastrophe and get her to around multi-continental. For speed, she dodges Gother's light arrows when she's tiny, so in a weaker state, and that puts her around 4 times the speed of light. And that's really a mid-ball, because you could really call her a lightning timer for a low ball going off of Gil Thunder and his feats with Meliodas, or 33 times faster than light as a high ball based off Oslo and his dodging of Mael's light beams. Post-training Diane at her peak should be in the multi-continental ranges for a mid-end pretty solidly, thanks to her being relative to commandments like Droll, who scaled drastically above her beginning of series self, and she should be many times faster than light for that same reasoning. Giving her the full benefit of the doubt, she should somewhat scale to Tarmiel, who has his planetary ocean feat, and that would be pretty solid for her considering that she scales either to or above Galland when at her peak with Droll's dance at the terms of her post-training self, and by doing that she would indirectly scale to Tarmiel by scaling above Galland, who managed to damage Tarmiel, literally blitz him and cut him in half. End of series, peak Diane could also start a solid lock-in around those planetary levels at a mid-range by scaling above most commandments and Archangels, and possibly even star ranges considering how you want to interpret her feat against the Prime Demon King. Once again, many times faster than light. Now, with all of that, where does Diane stack up by the end of the series? well, she's in the top 15, maybe top 10 at her peak. So you can't compare to Chaos, Chaos Cath, Chaos Arthur, the Supreme Deity and the Demon King, True Magic Meliodas, the One Ultimate Escanor, Post-Purgatory Kuartrus Bond, Full Wings King, and honestly, she's in the running for the number 10 spot based off of how you want to interpret her feat against the Demon King versus Merlin's feat when she was at her peak. Zeldris is also in contention, however, Diane's peak is very conditional and needs time to reach, and honestly, based off her regular base feats, which are pretty much non-existent, it would likely drop her down a lot more, like probably barely scraping into the top 15, considering that without her peak state, which takes time to reach, she would fall beneath Merlin, she would fall beneath Zeldris, she would fall beneath the original Demon, all who at base are just stronger than her because they have feats, which she just simply doesn't have. So that's the thing there. But usually when I'm trying to analyze characters, I'll talk about them at their feasible peak, so that's where I give Diane like the top 15, top 10 spot pretty solidly based off her peak feats. Now, I do like Diane. I do not believe her story or character is the most complex or the most interesting, but she serves her purpose very, very well. I actually end up feeling bad for her due to her constant suffering at the hands of those she cares for so much, such as Gowther and King. And what makes me like her is the idea that she's willing to forgive and trust and love, regardless of the pain she has been through. That is really respectable for me, as it takes an unbelievable amount of strength to do something as difficult as forgiving someone who has wronged you and helping them save themselves. The only problem I had with Diane was her initial desire for Meliodas, but I'm happy that the perilous envy faded away. I'm happy to say that Diane got exactly what she always wanted. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. This was a fun one because of how wild a lot of Diane's moments are, considering their gigantic scale, and honestly, that's really it. I've done all the 7 deadly sins, so it may soon be time to rank them all from weakest to strongest at the end of the series. Regardless of that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.